Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for coming. I'm New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, and I am very pleased to be joined here in this beautiful home today by Rochester Mayor Lovely Warren, State Senator Ted O'Brien, and the president of the Rochester Land Bank, which has renovated this spectacular home, Carol Wheeler. And we're here today to announce a renewed commitment to a very important program that has been funded by my office and that is helping Rochester and communities across the state struggling with a glut of vacant and abandoned properties. We started off, when I began pursuing the banks that caused the crash of the housing market, we started off trying to help homeowners facing foreclosure who had been foreclosed on. But we came to understand that even if you saved your home, if you were on a street that had several abandoned properties, you were a victim also. And local governments were victims also. The Rochester Land Bank Corporation is one of 10 land banks that are now up and running across New York State and is a great vehicle for dealing with the problem of abandoned and decaying properties. For those of you who don't know, land banks are nonprofit organizations that acquire distressed or underutilized properties and either rehab them so they can be sold as affordable housing, or if they're beyond repair, demolish them so the property can be put to some other use to benefit the community. Land banks help reduce crime, curb vandalism that abandoned properties attract. They relieve cities and towns, like Rochester, of the obligation to maintain the abandoned properties so they don't fall into even worse disrepair. And, of course, they depress property values for the whole neighborhood, and homes are not on the tax rolls as long as they're abandoned. The purpose of the land bank is to get every property rehabilitated, every property that can be used for affordable housing for hardworking men and women here in Rochester and across the state, in shape that people can move into it. This is a home here that now I think any family would be proud to live in, and it's a tribute to the land bank here that they've done such a spectacular job. In the first round of funding, through a competitive application process, we awarded $13 million statewide. That money was given out last fall, with more than $2.7 million going to the Rochester Land Bank. The infusion of funds from our office enabled the Land Bank to leverage an additional $3.7 million in private financing, and of course we also have to celebrate the fact that the city and county have contributed another $2 million of subsidies to the Land Bank. And there is no question that this investment is badly needed. There is no question that this investment is paying off well. A 2011 study done in Rochester found that the value of a home within 100 feet of a vacant property is reduced by almost $10,000. This home used to be one of the homes that was a drain on the community and a drain on Rochester, and it has now been completely renovated and is ready to be resold. Instead of an eyesore, we have a beautiful home enhancing the whole neighborhood. This is just one example. Since January of this year, the Land Bank has rehabilitated 18 homes that have been sold to low and moderate income families. The Land Bank has also been able to negotiate with some banks and secure the donation of 5 so-called zombie properties, which are abandoned properties that the bank has not yet taken over because the foreclosure process is not complete, but the homeowners have fled. So they're abandoned and no one has been taking responsibility for maintaining them. It's challenging to negotiate with banks for this, so it reflects very good and diligent work by this land bank that they have been able to do it. I'm hopeful that we'll pass legislation related to zombie properties in the upcoming legislation. So the Rochester Land Bank, to sum up, has acquired and remediated 64 properties. It has already sold 18 properties. These are making a tangible difference in communities around the city, and we have announced just yesterday that because the land banks are working so well, we have expanded the commitment we've made for the second round of funding from $7 million to $20 million, and we've announced grants in the last day or so. The second grant of more than $1.8 million will be going to the Rochester Land Bank, bringing the total that we've provided to just over $4.5 million over this 3-year period. And the funds will enable the Land Bank to increase the number of home renovations, and it also is going to support the Land Bank as it launches 2 new programs. which we're very pleased to support. The first is the Targeted Blight Removal Program, which will demolish 10 to 12 severely distressed homes in neighborhoods like this one that are slated for larger community revitalization projects. And second, the Neighborhood Builders, which will allow the Land Bank to build 6 brand new homes on vacant lots, providing good affordable housing and adding to the tax rolls. It is very important to also note, and Senator O'Brien, I appreciate your being here, that we had an important legislative victory in the last session. The number of land banks in the original legislation was limited to 10. Because of a law that was passed by the Senate and the Assembly and signed by the governor, that has been expanded to 20. We look forward to other communities around the state following Rochester's model and setting up land banks and working to improve their communities. I think the significance of the work of the land bank really is evident if you walk around this house, which I recommend that you do. It is a beautiful home that was an abandoned, decayed property that was harming the neighbors, that was depressing the property values, that was not on the tax rolls, and this is now a home that a hardworking family is going to be able to afford to live in and contribute to the community and to the city. And I thank my partners in government and my partners in the land bank here for making this all possible. This is the kind of thing that inspires us to go out and get more money, which we will do. So with that, I'd like to introduce the mayor of the city of Rochester and a great partner in this whole effort, Mayor Lovely Warren.
Thank you, Attorney General. I am so excited to be here and to accept the money on behalf of the city of Rochester. I really want to pay tribute to the team that we have at the Land Bank. Carol Wheeler and Kathy Sheets and their team have really worked hard to make sure that abandoned properties and properties that need to be rehabbed are rehabbed in our city. I want to also thank Jean Lowe for Home Rochester's commitment to making sure that these properties are occupied by families that want to provide a opportunity for their children to grow up in a lovely home and a nice home that's lead-free, lead-safe, and in a nice neighborhood. And so this gives us the opportunity as a city of Rochester to really transform lives and transform neighborhoods. And so I really want to pay tribute to those people that work so hard every day on making sure that this happens, and want to again thank the Attorney General for his commitment to our city, commitment to revitalizing our neighborhoods, and his commitment to making sure that banks are held accountable for abandoning and leaving these properties distressed in some of our neighborhoods. And so we would not have been able to receive this money had it not been for your leadership and your due diligence as our Attorney General, and I want to say thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Your Honor. And now a great colleague in government and one of the folks who helped us pass the Land Bank expansion bill in this last session, Senator Ted O'Brien.
Well, it's certainly true, unfortunately, that many neighborhoods in the city of Rochester are at a tipping point where vacant or decaying properties are dragging down the neighborhoods, as the Attorney General alluded to, and depressing the value of the neighboring homes and spurring criminal activity. The problem of vacant properties was greatly increased when the mortgage industry collapsed in 2008 and 2009, spurring a big economic crisis. Today, intervention now, like we're seeing in this home, can help turn challenged neighborhoods into thriving neighborhoods within our city. The Attorney General's made a serious commitment to funding land banks throughout the state. Using the proceeds of the landmark settlement, he negotiated with the bad players in the financial industry that nearly destroyed the U.S. housing market. This can change the face of communities throughout our state, particularly in upstate cities like Rochester. The partnership between the state legislature, which created the legal framework necessary for land banks to exist, and the Attorney General's office, which has been the primary source of funding for the land banks, has been an effective one. Attorney General Schneiderman's commitment to funding the Rochester Land Bank is the key. It was the commitment to the funding that's the key. It strongly supports Mayor Warren's vision for improving the lives and economic prospects of city residents living in city neighborhoods. I'd like to thank the Attorney General for his continued focus on aggressively pursuing those who harm this state, and for his vision in using the proceeds of those settlements to fund programs that will dramatically change the lives of New Yorkers for the better. It's great to see the Attorney General provide the kind of funding that affirms that we in the legislature acted wisely when authorizing and reauthorizing the Land Bank program. It's a great initiative for the city of Rochester. The Attorney General is doing great work for us, so thank you very much, Attorney General Eric Schneiderman.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you. And finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Carol Wheeler, who's the president of the Rochester Land Bank, who has led the way in renovating this home and doing so much more, and with more programs and more renovations to come. Carol? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. And yes, it is a wonderful day in Rochester. Can you believe it? Over 60 degrees in Rochester in the middle of October. This is great. And have an announcement for an award to the Rochester Land Bank. What could be better? It is exciting to be a part of this extraordinary effort and this announcement. The Rochester Land Bank is just over a year old, and we have already impacted over 60 properties through acquisition, environmental remediation, and also complete renovations and being sold. We were just so ecstatic that this effort can continue for us to impact even more properties. This $1.8 million that we will receive as a part of this second grant, as you have heard, we'll be doing 4 activities. It's our city's Home Rochester program, and this particular house that you're in here at 279 Lakeview Park is a part of that Home Rochester program. This house will sell for approximately $74,900. It's been on the market now for a week, but we're certain that it is going to sell very, very quickly. We're also going to be dealing, as you heard, with blight removal. That's strategic blight removal. We want to go into various areas where there is other major investment that's taken place. It's neighborhood builders, and I invite all of you. It is a new program that we are starting up, but we're getting started over on Straub Street, and it's just a few blocks away. And we are looking forward to the new 6 newly constructed home ownership opportunities. And the grant will also help us continue to be a high-performing land bank. We want to make sure that, yes, the work that we do continues, but not only continue, we want to thrive and make sure that these efforts can be sustained. Now, the Attorney General, he alluded to the negative impact of a vacant house on a given street or on the adjacent properties, which is about $10,000. But when you have a brand new renovated home on a street, that increases the values of those homes that are in close proximity by $15,000. And we want to see that continue in our neighborhoods. Now, while changing the physical condition of properties is very, very important, but what I think is even more important is that we're changing lives. We are actually helping improve the quality of life for Rochester citizens. And that is, they may have the opportunity to purchase such a lovely home, or they may have family members or themselves who have been able to take advantage of the economic benefit of one of these homes, meaning the construction jobs that are being generated on one of these particular projects. But also, if you live next door to a vacant house and that house finally becomes rehabilitated, that definitely improves the quality of life for you. And I can personally attest to having a vacant structure on your street and what it does. On my street, one of the things that happened several years ago is that not only was there one house, but there were 2 houses, and boy, were they strategically located. As you entered my street, on either corner, there were 2 vacant houses. What an awful entrance into a great street. Most of the people on my street are owner occupants, but to have those 2 vacant structures right at the corner really distracted from the good character of that street. So I was very happy, one, when the house was actually renovated on one side, and on the other side of the street. Unfortunately, one of the things that happened, and this was alluded to as well, is that there was a fire as a result of vandalism and arson. Fortunately, it came down. So right now on my street, it's looking much, much better. The vacant house is gone because it was demolished, and on the other side, one has been renovated. So yes, I thank you for the efforts of the Attorney General's office, making sure that we had funding for a second round. So thank you, Attorney General Schneiderman. Thank you, Senator O'Brien. Thank you, Mayor Lovely Warren. Jean Lowe, our great partner at the Greater Rochester Housing Partnership. All of our partners in Home Rochester, the lenders, as well as the buyers, as well as our nonprofit developers, the Rochester Land Bank Board, who have worked very, very diligently over this past year, the staff of the Rochester Land Bank, Kathy Sheets, Maritza Mejias, Scott Smith, and Tom Worth. But I want to say a particular thank you to Ryan Mitchell that keeps us all together. And lastly, just anyone who was helpful in Rochester's Land Bank receiving this second award. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Hold on, I need some of that.
You need some of that? Okay.
Thank you.
I want to take yours.
Thank you. So this is the successful conclusion of a very long process, and I just want to remind all of you of how far we've come. 4 years ago, when I was running for Attorney General, there was no big investigation going on into the banks that caused the crash of the housing market. And I'm very proud of the fact that a year later, in January 2012, the President of the United States announced at the State of the Union address an unprecedented working group to investigate the banks that caused the crash, and made me the co-chair of that working group. So far, the working group has recovered over $60 billion nationwide, with over $4 billion going to New York, either in cash or in write-downs for New York homeowners and other benefits for those who were hurt by the crash. The working group had and has two purposes. And it's important to understand, we are still working. We've only settled with 3 big banks so far. These are the largest settlements. Several of them are the largest settlements in American history, by the way. The largest settlement in history was the $13 billion J.P. Morgan Chase settlement, but then we surpassed it with the $16.6 billion Bank of America settlement. So the working group is working. We have 2 goals. One is accountability, to make sure those who benefited from the run-up to the crash and were bailed out give back. And second is to try and get the money into communities that were hurt and to use it as effectively as possible. And being in this House after the last few years of working on this is tremendously gratifying. And I thank all my partners for making this a reality. We look forward to working with you for more years to come as we bring back communities all around the state and we bring back neighborhoods all over Rochester. Thank you very much.